You see this shit Wayne gave me? This dice, I rolled it, I got a 6, 1, 1, 1, like 2.
Well, okay, I've done you the mercy of neither bringing out the Fear the Boot dice nor the almighty bone dice.
Oh.
So...
Can I use those?
Yeah, you can share it with me. All right, so...
Take those.
All right, so what we're going to do today, because I was trying to figure out how I wanted to handle this. Okay, and first of all, to all you guys listening, we are trying, for the first time, we now actually have a mic on the middle of a gaming table that is not in the recording studio. So the sound quality, the recording setup, all of this is
going to be fantastic.
It's pure test. We have no idea. So if this is terrible, well, you're our guinea pigs.
Hey, remember the motto for the Fear the Boot AP. Fuck 'em.
Somebody actually referenced that in the comments. They said, you've done a good balance of being mindful of your listeners and yet still keeping fuck 'em. All right, so let me explain what we're doing today here. Brodeur's out because Geek Way to the West is occurring right now. And so he's on the board for that. And so he's getting a bunch of stuff prepared. And so he's not with us tonight. And so we need to get Eric's character made. And I've got a couple things I want to ask you guys. So this is still going to be a semi-prep session, but assuming we don't get really hung up, I do want to attempt something of a first game. And what I decided to do for that first game, if we end up having the time to do this, which I think we will, is this is going to be a game that is going to take place about 5 years prior to game one. Because there was a question that I kept asking them and never got a really sufficient answer on, which is, how did the boat sink? Because they had a boat that was owned by the guy who was, Eric, your mentor. It's kind of been a father figure to everyone, a guy that you guys call
me.
Pops.
My childhood was stolen.
Yes, yours was stolen. So this is going to take place, and so Pops had this boat, right? And so the boat sank, and then Brodeur ends up getting a terrible deal on a new boat, which is where the game begins, because he's effectively illiterate, and he signed something without having any idea what it was, and it's terrible. All right, but I kept asking him, how did this boat sink? What happened to Pops? And I couldn't get a clear answer. So if we get into the game today, we're going to do a prologue game where Chad, because his character was not present at the time that this happened, is going to play Pops. So I'm going to have him play a major NPC. And whatever occurs in this game, though it will have occurred 5 years prior to game one, will become canon for the campaign. And so this is how we can sort of deal with Brodeur's absence and whatever's. Okay. I'll NPC him or something. And Chad, now, and I'll put this online with the show notes or the posting of this episode. I printed off some stuff for Chad on Pops' stats and background and motivations. And normally, if I had somebody that I was going to deal them in as an NPC, I keep it down to an index card. By the way, I do have the dry erase nameplates coming in.
Yeah, but they're not
I know.
Yet.
Actually, I have a bunch of cool stuff coming in for this game. But
yeah, actually should be waiting for me when I get home.
But anyway, so the how was I even saying?
I don't know, man. I fold an index card, I write my name on it, and you just lose your damn mind.
Yeah, right. Normally, if I was going to deal in somebody as an NPC, I'd just give them like a note card's worth, just a few little pointers. But since Chad's going to be playing a major NPC, I needed him to know a little bit more.
So if this major NPC survives, can I play him? Like, not regularly, but just...
If he shows up?
If he shows up, yeah.
I'll allow it if you want to do it.
Yeah.
All right. So let me give one thing real quick that's going to apply to all three of you with your characters. I'll have to have Brodeur do this as well. First of all, I decided to reintroduce an attribute I removed. Ditch the bullets blank, since I've just handed you actual 40 caliber dry rounds. And change that to be speed. I'm reintroducing the speed attribute. For Chad and Wayne, just set it at a 6 and point up and point down however you want. So it can become a dump stat, or you can just leave it at 6.
What's our max? 10?
10. Okay. Eric, to get you started on character creation, you have a total of 36 points to distribute between your attributes. Minimum is 2, maximum is 10.
Okay.
So, or if you just want to start them at 6 and just point up and point down until you get it where you like it, that's your choice too.
Okay.
All right. Now, something with that I'm trying to accomplish with these rules is I wanted the characters and the stuff that's being tracked to really describe how Skies of Glass is played, which is, it is oftentimes a story that is more about community, even if that community is small, than about the individual.
Okay.
And so I'm moving a lot of the detail away from the individual and instead to describe their context within the group they operate in, which could be a whole city, it could be a farm, it could be a family, it could be who knows what.
Okay.
So it could be really big or really small. And the group now actually has a statted sheet that describes the group's assets, the health of the group, things like that. We will not be using that today because you guys are not at that point.
Okay.
You know, currently, if someone was to be using it, it would be Pops. But Pops is not actually a PC, and it's kind of irrelevant for this game. Okay. So, all right. So first of all, start by distributing those amongst the stats you have. Chad? Gracious, what did you do with those 3 points?
Didn't you say it was 6?
Yeah, it was 6.
So I took 3.
Yeah.
That was 3. That was 3. Perception was 4. 4 plus 3 is 7.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
your perception was a 4, so you upped
Right.
your perception. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I was just curious.
No.
I wasn't accusing you of cheating. I just...
If you were accusing me of cheating, you wouldn't have said anything, and I would have gotten surrounded by, like, in Rape, Missouri with the syphilis gang. And...
No, I've had players I felt the need to accuse of cheating. You're not one of them. I was just curious what you had done. Okay, Chad, start reading this over. Let me know if you have any questions. So, Chad, I just handed Chad 3 sheets on Pops, and should give him everything he needs to play the character today and potentially, depending on where the game goes in the future. So we can come back to that. Wayne, once you're settled on what you've got, there's something I want to start working on, which is when I start putting together my plot documents, my plot outline, my what's really going on doc, all that stuff, which I will be putting up for people to grab as PDFs off of the AP site, then I wanted to be sure that I had everyone's plot hooks figured out. So I know we kind of covered this with the questionnaire and group template.
Yep.
But I want to... Well, if anyone's curious how we integrated Eric, I had a conversation with him where I communicated a bunch of these things like from the group template and such to him, gave him a rundown of the group, and by my judgment, made sure it was a character that everyone's okay with. But I am still going to have him pitch that character here in a second to Wayne and Chad.
How long after the war is it?
As of the time the game starts, it'll have been about 75 years.
Oh, good. Because I thought we talked about it being 125 years for some reason.
It is no. It's 50.
Does that mean?
Oh wait, no. I'm sorry. It's the other way around. It's something like, if you work it all out, it's been something like the war occurs something like 100 years in the future, and it's been something like 50 to 75 years after the war.
Oh. Okay.
So all total, it is quite a bit into the future, but
it's only been 75-ish years. Because, like I said, I thought it was 125 years after the war, and his parents were born shortly after the war. How old is this dude?
well, it's actually, I have his age up there.
There you go.
Okay. So while he's doing that,
Oh, age on the other page.
yeah.
Yep.
So real quick, Chad, Eric, can you go ahead and pitch to them their character concept, and let's make sure they feel this is going to fit into the group template. I was fine with it, but let's...
Porn star.
Ex-porn star. No.
X, are you some sort of quitter?
I just couldn't physically do it anymore. No, my guy is based off of the archetype of like the noble savage. Mm-hmm. So he was raised in a rural area that was overrun by bandits or raiders or whatever the equivalent of in this setting is. and was taken as a slave of one of the raiders.
Now, wait a minute. You're wearing a Conan shirt. Because I like where this is going.
And then was raised for quite a few years under the thumb of this really cruel master, and then was liberated by Pops. And Pops being either in his boat or as a member of another crew in his youth or whatever, and then took in my character and raised him as kind of a surrogate son. He was already, I'm picturing my character as about 18, 19 years old, so it wasn't that long ago. So the concept of my character is that he has very little social graces because he's lived amongst this brutality most of his life, and has a lot of trouble with his morality when it comes to what's appropriate, what's liberal use of violence, things like that, and the idea is that he's to learn how to react amongst civilized people.
Is he a might makes right type, or is he more, he just, he shoots a guy and everyone's horrified and he's like, what, that's how we do it out there?
Right. It's not more, he's not like a physical, he's a physical guy,
Sure.
but he's not a physical brute. He's more of a, oh, I don't understand, did I just do something wrong? What's the problem?
Yeah, might doesn't make right, because who cares about right?
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Might makes alive.
So, and I even came up with some traits, personality traits for him. He's super loyal to the group. He's one of those guys that, he does whatever he can to support the group because he sees Pops as a father figure. And if Pops lives or dies, if he dies, he'll have this like martyr syndrome where he thinks Pops was the be-all, end-all, and what would Pops do? What would Pops do in this situation? And that's how he's going to guide his decision-making. But he's also super protective of the group in that, he kind of overwatches the group and does the physical things that needs to be done, but also almost like a motherly kind of making sure everybody has their equipment taken care of, and he's much more of like a nature boy than any kind of intellectual or anything like that. Negative trait wise, he's super gullible. Especially when it comes to
we got two of them.
only when it really comes to his brothers or you guys, because it's one of those things where it's like, hey, go do that, and make fun of him as he does something really silly or whatnot. But he completely believes that especially the group has his best interest in mind. So, and the other thing is he's truthful. He doesn't see any value in being deceitful or anything like that, almost to a fault. So if hey, what did you do in this case? Well, we walked into here and we shot that guy and blah, 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 blah.
So when I'm negotiating to sell something, I don't want him around to tell the truth.
Right, but if you tell me, hey, don't speak, then I would say, okay. And then I wouldn't speak because you told me not to.
We'll handle the business end until things go bad.
Yeah, and then when it comes, when it comes to doing things, like I said, his social graces aren't really good, but he's also has like a very blurred morality when it comes to the survival of the group. So you can't do that. That's not a fair deal, or you shouldn't go and steal from those people. But we needed fuel. Well, what's the problem? That kind of thing. So, he's not overly cruel or anything like that. He just doesn't know where the line is.
Do you guys have any questions, comments, objections?
Sounds good to me.
I think if it's a role that we don't have in the group.
Yeah. And I think I know who's going to kill my character. No, I'm totally loyal. I'm not working for anyone else. I'm not keeping things.
Well, and see, the thing is, my gullibility is that, well, Lee would never do anything to hurt us. He's part of us. He's one of us. So that and even if everybody else is like, we need to kick Lee out because he just did this. No, absolutely not. That's the way he would be.
Excellent. I know how Lee's going to survive.
Yeah, this is going to turn into a like Survivor-style block voting, social manipulation exercise. All right, so while Chad's reading that, go ahead and keep working on your stats.
I've got my stats ready.
You've got your stats. Okay. Yeah. So then the next part down, your competence, this represents what it is that you are to the group. This is a thing that they can count on you to do. Whenever you roll this, this is where you're going to be getting your best help from the dice.
Okay.
So your competence would probably be something along the lines of scout, or scout's sort of what came to my mind of,
Okay.
see someone who's kind of a survivalist, a bit of a skirmisher, but is not, it comes from his background. Now, if you disagree with that, then you don't have to go with what I'm telling you. I'm just telling you what came to my mind. Okay.
Yeah.
So the opposite of that is your incompetence.
Okay.
This is what it is that nobody in the group can count on you to do. And this is where you're going to always need people to cover for you. Like I said, I wanted this to be about the group and about how you guys fit together. Your incompetence is where the dice are going to be most against you.
Right.
Success is possible, but the odds are always going to be working against you.
Okay.
So your incompetence, you could put something down there like society and culture, or personal relationships. I don't know. Or maybe there's something in particular. The only thing that I ask is that the scope of your incompetence must match the scope of your competence.
Okay.
Okay. So if we were playing a Mystery Men game and your competence was throwing forks, then I'd be okay with your incompetence being you can't handle a rotary phone.
Okay.
But conversely, if your competence is I'm a combat badass, well, then your incompetence better be equally, broad in scope.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to do the one I put the X by, because I won't be able to keep it consistent.
Okay. That's fine.
So, like a competence of scouting
Could you do... Hang on a second.
Sure.
Could you do... this one, because it doesn't require memorizing anything. Can you do that part of it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
That's really weird.
Yes. Okay. And that doesn't require memorization. So,
Okay.
And if you guys are wondering what we're talking about, you guys at home, then look on the show notes for something in Chad's character that I just underlined. That's what I asked him to do. Okay. So go on.
So, competence in, say, it could be like related terms, like scouting and wilderness survival or something like that, or does it have to specifically be like wilderness survival?
For your competence?
Yes.
No, you can put the two together. I mean, to me, I would include wilderness survival under your scouting.
Okay.
Anyway, in my understanding of how scouting works in the setting, I mean, there's no harm in having it written there.
Okay.
But I would give it to you anyway.
Okay. So then a competence in scouting with an incompetence in personal interaction.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah. Or an incompetence in city life or civilized life, or
So just the other end of the coin.
Yeah, the other end of the coin. You're really good with plants and animals, but you don't have any idea how a lock works.
Gotcha.
Similarly, you know how to take somebody's head off with a bow at 100 yards, but you have no idea how to ask a girl out.
Right. Okay.
Well, you have an inappropriate way of doing it, maybe, but...
Well, you can't just club them on the head?
So, okay. Now, within those... Now, I'm sorry, it doesn't have to be within those. So now you have a reliability and a struggle. What reliability is reliability. It could be a subset of your competence, okay? So it could be something like, within survival, you're really good at herbal medicine, all right?
Okay.
It does not have to be. It could be completely unrelated. So it could be, your reliability could be something like, I don't know, I'm just looking at the Lord of the Rings box. So Lord of the Rings trivia, which has nothing to do with scouting.
Right.
But what it means is this is something that you're fairly consistent with. And how this will manifest in the dice is you will never, ever roll a critical failure in it. Okay. Critical failures will be ignored, which is good because a critical failure, the way it's handled in this game, is it actually then goes into a new die roll that is moved to negative and creates catastrophes of varying levels. So your reliability, it could be a subset of your competence, or it could be something unrelated. It's up to you. But this is something that, however well or poorly you do it, they know you're at least going to get out there and do your thing. Okay?
Okay.
So you're not an all-star with it, or maybe you are. But they know that this is not something you're just going to embarrassingly annihilate.
Okay.
Okay, and your struggle is the reverse of that. You will never get a critical success. You can critically fail, but you will never get a critical success. You could succeed, you will just never critically succeed. So your struggle is something that no matter how hard you try, you just can't get it right. Now, once again, this could be a subset of your incompetence, or it could be something unrelated. The only thing I ask, once again, is whatever the scope and relevance of your reliability is, your struggle must match it.
Gotcha.
So if your reliability is using rotary phones, then your struggle can be touch-tone phones. Conversely, if your reliability is sniping people in the head, then your struggle being rotary phones would be no. So
Okay.
it should be equal in terms of relevance and scope to reliability.
Gotcha. Okay.
So go ahead and take a second there. Wayne, do you want something more than a note card for this? I don't know what you're writing, but...
Some of the NPCs and background things I've been thinking about over the week.
Gotcha. Okay.
The houses were named after what they specialize in.
They were, but I decided to actually start moving away from that, simply because some of them started sounding really absurd or confusing. And so I've decided to start...
House Hot Wet Bitches was just not bitch.
The URL was taken.
Right.
.org, .edu, .gov,
.museum.
.co.uk. They were just all taken. Charlie, I have no idea what you're doing down here. But hi. Yeah, this mic we're toying with. When I was reading the reviews on it, there's something in sound stuff called phantom power, which is when electricity is run to a mic. Because some mics, you just plug them in, they record directly. Others require a power source. That's called phantom power. And I guess people weren't giving this mic phantom power because there were a lot of people saying that, oh yeah, this Omni mic needs about 1 every 6 feet. And, you know, they were kind of struggling with its pickup and what we call gain, which is, you know, its input volume. And I plugged this thing in, set it at a normal volume. One of my dogs was sitting about 2 or 3 yards from the mic, and its breathing was clipping the audio chain. And what clipping means is it means it actually was going off the top of the audio chain. Like, this is what the kind of muffled sound you get if somebody screams into a mic. And I actually have to turn this mic nearly off because it is so sensitive that any setting above nearly off creates just an enormous amount of noise.
Can Pops have a flag with a sort of family crest on it that people recognize?
Sure.
From a distance, that flies in the boat.
Yeah, particularly because his family's been around for a while. They've been doing river life for a while. It's possible there is a family crest. It's also possible it's something like it was just a logo or doodle that was painted on the side of a boat decades or even centuries ago that has been adopted as a family crest. It's possible its meaning has been utterly lost. But no, I have no problem with him having that. Okay, well, those guys are working. Wayne, can we review your character hooks? I know some of these you're writing NPCs, so you may mail me more. But can we review... I know one of your character hooks is you wanted to have a bastard child out there somewhere, so...
The child, I don't know if it's male or female. I'd like that to be a surprise to me as player and character.
Okay.
The mother is Beverly Eris.
Somewhere, let's see, mother is, what was her name again? Beverly?
Eris.
Spell Eris for me.
Aris.
Okay.
Alright, back in town. My sister, her name is Jen.
And your last name is?
Carstairs.
Carstairs. Okay, so you have Jen Carstairs.
Yep, and she's the one that I have the small carved figure from. I see her as perfect.
And what is the figure of?
A dolphin.
That's right. You gave a small wooden dolphin. Okay.
I see her as perfect. She's a perfect angel. She's the smartest person I know. She could never do any wrong whatsoever, and he would never believe otherwise. In reality, she's a mild wild child. Not like crazy, not so stereotypical or anything where she's, really out there, but she's a normal teenage girl that gets into trouble.
Okay.
But he would never believe it. His mother?
You said a wild child. Is this an older or younger sister?
Younger.
Younger, so okay.
Yep. Mother is Peggy. She is extremely skilled seamstress / tailor.
Okay. Peggy, mother. Okay.
And his father is Jeremiah. And he is a farmer through and through. The farm itself is a family farm run with his 4 brothers and 3 sisters and their husbands.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So a huge...
Runs as a
Southern
large, family co-op.
Yep.
Okay. So this is not an immediate family. Okay.
And then he has a rival that is basically another merchant.
Okay.
That he competes with out there that he just, occasionally they'll be in the same towns at the same time.
What's his name?
And his name is James Weldon.
James Weldon. Okay.
All right, that's what I got, which is exactly enough space to fill up your area there.
Yep. I was going to say, if you kept going, I was going to be like, yeah, just email this to me. This is mostly just for me to know that I have enough. If you guys want to email me particular NPCs, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, I don't want to go through the time of naming all of the aunts and uncles since there are so many of them. But...
Okay. Eric, what is your character's name?
Motomar.
Spell that.
Motumar.
M-A-R, okay. And obviously one of yours we talked about is that you have a pendant from your clan. It's significant, but you don't know it's significant.
Right.
It's significant, but you don't know why. Okay. Now, didn't you also say that guy who was an ass to you within that tribe is actually still alive and out there?
Right. He escaped.
Okay. Does he have a name?
I did not give him a name. We'll call him Koresh.
Koresh. We'll spell that with a K, just because
Sounds good.
Looks more
ominous.
Looks more ominous, yeah. Koresh. So Koresh is still alive.
Dan, what is a gambler hat?
A gambler hat.
Because all I think of is the green.
Oh, the visor, the poker visor.
Yeah.
No, a gambler hat is actually, you've probably seen them before. They kind of look like the midpoint between a fedora and a cowboy hat.
Okay.
If you Google one, you'll find tons of pictures of them. But I said it's kind of like the midpoint between a cowboy hat and a fedora.
Okay.
So Koresh is still alive.
Right.
And
it was because of something that I did attracted the attention of those who sacked the Raiders' hideout. So I gave away their position.
Okay, so you gave away the client intentionally or unintentionally? He's going to believe intentionally either way. I'm just curious.
I'll say it was unintentional.
Okay. So Motomar unintentionally gave away his tribe's position. Okay. And then you see Pops as a genuine father figure. Anything else from your background that you've got immediately for plot hooks I can use as a GM. I think this is good, so if you don't, that's fine. I'm just curious if you do. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to slightly adjust your background just to correct things a little bit to setting.
Okay.
The area that you guys are living in actually does have, it's something like a city-state that has tamed surrounding areas of interest and resources. And so there is, a standing army that tries, it cannot be everywhere at once. So there are holes in its work and such. But when it finds out about threats, such as raiders, it will respond to them.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking is your clan got a little bit bold and opportunist, probably started raiding a little along the river, which is kind of towards the soft heart of the territory. Good pickings.
Mm-hmm.
Part of this army came out from St. Louis looking for you guys after you made it several good hits and was on your trail, and they were close, and you accidentally gave the position away.
Right.
You escape, whether you ran or just they didn't kill you because you were a kid, but left you. Pops finds you, picks you up, takes you in.
Okay.
So he is not the one that directly responded to what was going on.
Okay.
But
yeah. All right. And then I think the only other thing was the pendant around my neck. The insinuation was that Pops may know something about it. Or may know someone who does.
Okay, so Pops may know. Pops may have clues. To its value. Okay.
Right. And when the raiders killed my family, my mother handed me the pendant and said, "Take this and run." So it has some significance, but I don't know what it is.
Was your mother a member of the clan, a plaything of the clan, of this group? Who was she precisely? And you don't have to give me an answer now if you want some time to think about it.
Well, I was just a little kid, so I honestly don't know.
You don't really know. Okay,
Yeah.
So you don't know. Okay. With Brodeur, I know off top that he has a terrible loan on the boat. On the new boat, not the one you're going to be on today. On the new boat, I know that he has collateral on the loan. Is his family's vineyard and freedom. If he defaults on this loan, they will be taken into indentured servitude until the loan is repaid. I'll have to come back to Brodeur. Now, that alone is probably enough for me to work with, but I don't know if he also has more that he wants to give me. And Brodeur did send me his character's name, which is... So I can actually get his name in there. James Owen Kreider. Okay. Come back to Chad in a second. But for those of you guys at home, the way that I'm going to use this is when I go to create the plot and decide on some of the NPCs, I want to be sure that this is something that is personal to the characters. I want to be sure that what happens in the game has an emotional impact on the characters, and thereby, if I do it well, has an impact upon the players. So it's not just them encountering random people, but I want this to be personal. And so what I'm going to do is, I don't know that I'll use all of these, and in some cases I may twist and distort them in ways that they didn't expect. So it may be they saw something, but what actually happened is not, like what they saw is true, but they misinterpreted it. There's a couple ways that I'm going to go about this. And I got to be somewhat careful, because if I distort things or toy with things too much, it becomes an agitation to the players, because I'm just constantly tightening the screws on them, goading them. You know, I'm turning their background not into a point of story, but a point of weakness and exploit. So I have to be somewhat careful in how I do this. And I also don't want to be rewriting their characters with everything that I do. But I do want to tools in the toolbox here, right? This is salt and pepper. We want some salt and pepper throughout the campaign, and that salt and pepper is going to be that I want this campaign to be personal to them on some level. I want people they know and things that they've done and things they care about to be some part of the story, and not just to be, something totally in the background. So, Chad, how are you doing on Pops?
Oh, I'm fine. We can start anytime you want.
Okay. Do you have any questions about Pops or anything you need?
Nope.
Okay. Chad, your character, your actual character, so not Pops, is Lee. With Lee's background, he is currently spying for an unknown individual. Who is this? He was masked.
Yes. Now you said that the process that they go through, they destroy the mask's personality. How heavy is that? How long does it take? When do they start?
It's just not actual brainwashing. Like they didn't actually do anything to you. It's more of a cultural ceremonial thing that they don't do anything. Once again, they're not brainwashing you. There's not cult like, except they expect you to play the part.
Gotcha.
And the part is that you are the intellect, you are the brain or part of the intellect of the house, and they want you to be thinking in such a focused way, and also to keep you as untouchable as possible. It's partially for your own protection, because it's very hard to manipulate someone if you don't know them. It's very hard to threaten them with things like, well, we'll kill your mother, if they don't even know who you are.
Gotcha.
And so while you are masked, you are expected to demonstrate no personality and to say nothing about yourself, the person behind the mask. Now, in very, very private settings, you are allowed to remove the mask and be as human as you want to be. Once again, they didn't brainwash you into this. It was a cultural pressure. So, and that ended the day that you won and were freed from that house.
Okay.
So, yeah, they've not actually mind wiped you or something. So you're not, like I said, you're not a recovering, cult victim or something where now you have to...
Gotcha. Be deprogrammed.
Yeah, you don't need to be deprogrammed. But freedom was bought through a pit fight engineered by rivalries between houses by an unknown party, which may or may not be the same one as the one you're making cookies for.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Chad, I know skill-wise, of course, you have things during the game. Is there anything else that you've got off the top of your head pre-game-wise? Your parents, with your intelligence, did they not realize its significance? Did they try to hide it? Did they try to promote it in hopes of getting you masked so they would get a little more leverage?
We'll say they didn't realize.
They just didn't understand.
They didn't understand.
Okay. So parents...
Because he's like, stat-wise, I mean, he's human, the top level of human intelligence, it seems. And many parents don't get their kid or something like that.
Okay.
I don't see his parents as stupid. They're not stupid. They're, normal people.
They just didn't connect the dots.
Right.
They didn't get the politics of it.
Yeah.
Which actually makes some amount of sense because St. Louis is somewhat closed on its internal working, so it's possible they simply didn't know. What did your family do, or does it do? Are they still around? Do you not know? Have you not gone back
to... No, they're in fact, all the people in Herman knew each other. And so, Brodeur and Philip were childhood friends. Are you from Herman? Is your character?
Not originally.
Not
no.
original. Okay,
And I'm not sure he'd know where he's from.
And that's
If you're
cool.
taking that young of an age,
Right.
you may not know what town you were from.
So yeah, he grew up in Herman, and his parents are still in Herman, and they do something I haven't thought of.
Okay, but, all right, we'll come back to that. You could think about, is there any other background tie-ins you want to mention to me?
Let's have the Lee's parents be tradespeople.
Okay.
Not like traders like, here, I'll give you wheat for this, but like they have a vocation, a skill that they do. This
Okay.
isn't farming.
All right, so Lee's parents are... Oh, what's a good trade for that area?
Post new trade, they
Blacksmith,
build,
leatherman.
repair, scavenged items. I mean, I'm not saying that they get computers to boot up after 75 years, but they...
Yeah, it's also an area that's big, though, into winemaking. What if they are more into things like land architecture? And what I mean by that is this is somebody you bring in to look at the hills and figure out, based on weather patterns, where ought I put things, how should I anchor, the lines that the vines are going to grow across? Or is that...
How about his mother does that?
Okay.
And his father does something else.
Well, we'll go hand in hand with that is carpentry.
Yeah.
It's up to you, though.
That's true.
Barrel making.
Yeah, glass blowing.
Yeah,
That's what I was wondering. It's something along the lines of
that's
like
another good
wineries.
one. Is if it's wine, maybe they're glass workers.
Yeah, that's true. Although, would we put wine in glass? Or would we put it in, like, barrels?
It has. Well, I mean,
is this fine wine 75 years after the nukes? Or is this, we're getting the frontier some booze?
well, all I can tell you is
if we wanted
historically,
to sell for more, bottles.
Historically, United States wine of a sort of, older era was not fine wine. It was high alcohol content.
Oh, yeah.
Mid to...
but liquor stored in glass is not a recent or obscure thing.
No.
But the and see, this may also be where they come in, depending, because if you're not just intelligent but also had access to books and stuff, Herman, wine country, right, grows and sells wine that the house that's responsible for this is going to want to market pretty far and wide, particularly the places that are going to get the most, they really want leverage, like down and out around the South and such.
Yeah.
Therefore, I have to imagine that they're going to try and sell Herman, and the wine country in general, they have control of, Herman, Defiance, whatever, as a commodity, as a brand. What if what your parents specialize in is basically some rich person or family or some politically influential individual comes into Herman and they have to provide the class. They know the finest wines. They serve it out of glasses, not out of tankards. They can talk about the antique pocket watch that somebody has. Maybe they have books on...
Maybe the house that owns Herman or runs the resources in Herman. I could see, like, Herman produces port wine. It's like get Joe drunk wine, and they do mead, and they do, like, Applejack, and they do hard liquor. And the house sees, like what you're saying is, if we make a finer wine, which will take more resources and will have less output, we could charge way more for it. We just have to find suckers to buy it. And
I could see that when we load up the boat, we first leave town, we'll have barrels of the cheap stuff, and we'll have a couple of boxes of the expensive stuff.
yeah, and then so like, how about the? So what were you saying with the?
So I'm thinking that they're almost... I don't know that there's a good way to describe them, or if there is, I'm not coming up with it, but they would almost be something like stewards, but not at the house level, meaning like a household, but more they kind of serve as sort of a cultural ambassador, steward, high society entertainer. Imagine geisha, but take out the performance and add in a whole lot more cultural conversation and things like that.
So they run a winery.
Yes, I'm almost thinking like a B&B.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, or the equivalent there too.
Do rich people travel at this point? And I mean, essentially talking about vacationing for luxury items.
Yes, it is not frequently done, but yes, and it is becoming a little more common.
How about this? Brodeur's family runs the vineyards, the agriculture aspect.
Okay.
My family runs the winery, and I don't mean like sitting on a deck and drinking wine and eating tapas, but like they take in the grapes and create the wine.
Okay, so you actually run the winery.
They don't
in
grow a single grape.
Right, but you actually distill the wine.
Right.
Okay, great. And just to complicate things further, if you default on this loan, your parents also go into servitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think my family.
His childhood was stolen.
I think my family's farm is the one that, instead of the wine or instead of the grapes and everything else that's being grown, they're the ones that actually grow the food.
I would say humans do have the shocking trait of needing to eat.
Yep. So I think that's what their large family farm is. Is it's the one that provides the food for the town.
Yeah.
Okay. Or at least, well, no, it's a huge one. So yeah, okay. All right.
All right, Dan. How big is Lee's family's winery? Let's roll for it. Higher, better. Lower is really struggling. Bam.
Big. Wasn't? Right. Yeah, big.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's maybe so big that they don't even get into the daily operation of it, like squishing grapes.
Wayne, what is the largest winery in Herman currently?
I think it's called Lee's Winery.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking either we're going to use that name or we're going to spoof it.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what wineries are. I know there is a Stonehill out there, but it's not one of the larger ones.
Yeah.
Because my problem is I always get Herman and Defiance conflated. I can't keep the two separate. Look that up. Okay, Eric. So for equipment,
yeah,
with your general equipment and possessions, basically give yourself anything reasonable. I only need to know about it if it's really weird, really antique, really valuable.
Okay.
With weapons and armor, I'll walk you through those, but it's going to be pretty similar. I'm just allowing best judgment on equipment. I'll just veto it if I think you're out of line.
Right.
But so start filling that out. There's
okay.
So Lee's family of winery, which his parents essentially own and operate, although it's more of a communal type thing, but they head it, run it, they make wine. They have been making like basically medicinal alcohol out of grapes. I mean, it's like
brandy.
Yeah, they've been making brandy and port, and it's just like the cheap stuff they make in mass, high alcohol content, sell it to everybody. And the masters of the region, St. Louis, this house, has come in, and there's like this new guy. It has nothing to do with Lee and being mass or anything like that. The new guy has come in and is changing how they do stuff. He's using his clout, basically.
Sure, because people consume more.
Yeah.
If you're not flattened off of your first glass, people do consume
right.
more.
I was wrong. Stonehill actually is the largest in Herman.
So it is Stonehill.
The second largest in the country. Third largest in the world.
Wow. Their wine's crap.
I don't think it's bad. I don't know, it's all right.
It's too sweet for me.
Oh, it doesn't bother.
I like it because of that.
Although I'm sure that they make some non-sweet ones, but whatever. What was I going to say? Yeah, they're basically making the wine equivalent of rot gut to sell to the masses, and then this St. Louis guy comes in is basically like, okay, you got to make wine like this. And they're like, the fuck do you know about making wine?
Wait.
And he wants the high quality, high expense, lower volume. And they don't, and they're not fighting or rebelling and getting out shotguns, but it's like a back and forth. And let's say this is the first year. I mean, it takes some retooling, right?
Right.
And it's just not something you're going to switch overnight. And this is the first year that they're trying the new way. And it's basically like, this St. Louis guy's like, this better pay. This better make the promises you're promising. Otherwise...
Well, actually, I'm going to note here, NPC opportunity for me.
I mean, there's a limit to what you can do in this sort of despotic society, but you can always do something.
So St. Louis wants less alcoholic wine,
but finer, higher luxury. And and we don't know, like the party, myself, my family, doesn't know what this guy's actual motivation is.
Oh, particularly because he's brought in a wine expert to help you.
What?
From Defiance.
Oh, no.
Wayne, what is another winery in Herman? Just doesn't matter size.
Mount Pleasant?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's
So, list of wineries in Missouri.
It's like I said, man, I always get Herman and Defiance confused. It's the two major wine producing areas of Missouri, and they're both too close to here.
Adam Pucha Winery. What else do we have? Augusta, another Herman one. Hannibal. Defiance. Chandler Hill is one of the Defiances. Oh, there's a St. Louis one.
So wait, so it's Stone Hill and then Chandler Hill? Great. Lee's family's winery is the Chandler Stone Winery.
I like it. Hermanoff. I'm guessing Herman may have been named for them.
Mm-hmm.
Herman now. Okay, so the only one I got to talk to still is Brodeur, but this should give me enough to start a plot hooks. The scan will be with this show episode. I don't know whatever this is. The actual stuff.
Fuck 'em up, episode 1.
Yeah, actually this is episode 2.
Oh.
But,
There's a winery in Barnhart.
ew.
Exactly.
Dude.
Persimmon Ridge.
You know, Earth City has that radioactive pit that's a Superfund site.
Yeah.
There is a winery that borders it. I don't mean like across the road. I mean like you look upon the nuclear waste dump from the winery. It's also an auto body shop.
So you get uranium and lead.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I drive by that place almost every day, and I say that too. I'm like, wow.
Damn. Okay. So,
Currently, Stonehill is 7 acres of grapes.
It doesn't seem like a lot. I
Doesn't
mean,
seem like a lot to me either, but
well,
I wouldn't want to cut grass on 7 acres, but you'd think that you'd need more to make wine. But
well, but it's also
then
a
again,
hill.
what do I know?
You have a lot of usable land because it's a hill. So,
Also, how much of those grapes go into making their wine? Because, you know, wines are like blends. I mean, in certain product categories, they're
that's
blends,
true.
And you get grapes from all over the place.
I don't know is the answer. I also don't know how many of them do they sell? What do they?
In the cold dark future of Skies of Glass, though, there's not importing grapes to make fine blends of your favorite Shiraz.
Yeah, none of you has ever probably even actually seen, much less consumed, a genuine champagne, for example.
Herman was founded by German immigrants.
Shocking.
I know. Yeah, for those of you at home, you're going to hear a lot of odd pronunciations of things because St. Louis was a French settlement that was then populated primarily by Germans. So all of our names or a lot of our names...
It was Spanish after the French.
Are French names for things pronounced through a more Germanic lens.
You know, the furthest battle of the Revolutionary War was fought near St. Louis?
I knew there were battles fought near St. Louis. I know they actually still go into some of the defense works out at Jefferson Barracks.
Well, a lot of that is Civil War. And there were Civil War battles fought not only on the river, but in the streets of St.
I thought we
Louis.
were talking about Civil War.
No, Revolutionary
War. Okay, you
Yes.
say I'd heard Civil War for some reason.
That's what I thought you said too.
Yep, there's an old Spanish fort. British attacked it with
He-Man.
The native scouts, where you get like a couple of British officers, and they get natives, and I forget what they were called.
Cannon fodder.
No,
They were. They gotta say, no, they were actually pretty good at what they did.
Right? Yeah, they were very.
No,
effective.
where they got treated like nothing and screwed was never during the wars.
Mm-hmm.
It's typically after the wars and or before them. Eric, how you doing?
I'm good. I think I've got enough.
Okay. Weapons. Start telling me what it is you think you ought to have.
Okay. I've got a rebuilt compound bow with arrows that I've scavenged over time. I've had to...
You can also make arrows. It's roll within your realm to do. Okay. So put down you have a bow.
Okay.
And... give me a 46 roll.
16.
Okay, you have 16 arrows?
Okay. I have a bolt-action rifle that I only use whenever it's something that's really far away.
Okay. Is it scoped?
Actually, I got the scope. It's a 40x scope, but the mounting is broken, so I just use it as a telescope.
It's funny, Brodeur's character has a rifle scope that he also uses. If you guys
I learned it from him.
I say, yeah, if you guys ever get duct tape or a screwdriver. Okay, so put down you have a bolt-action rifle.
We never did get, since I see you have a thing there with damage actually listed.
Oh, stats.
Yeah. So I have a knife and a
When
collapsible
we start
baton.
this prologue game,
Mm-hmm.
don't have your character have a bolt action rifle,
That's fine.
and we'll take care of it.
Okay.
Okay, so I strongly recommend having a knife.
Oh, yeah. I wrote
For
it's
utility purposes.
Yeah, it's
a knife, a hatchet, something with which to cut.
I pictured a shard of bulletproof glass that I dipped in hot rubber to use as from a handle.
Oh my gosh, okay.
I don't have a knife. Lee doesn't have a knife. I mean, he's got a sketchbook though.
Totally interchangeable.
Right.
Quick, we need to chop down this branch. Let me get my sketchbook.
Damn right.
Yeah, in that type of world, I always have a knife.
Okay.
He has a printing press.
Are you wearing any form of armor or protection?
Like a leather motorcycle jumpsuit with some plates stitched onto it.
Okay, so there are plates, actually.
Yeah.
What are the plates made out of?
Like ceramic plates. Like
Talking like ballistic ceramics?
No. Just something that like roofing tiles.
Okay. So I get you. Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to stop a round straight up, but it might deflect it.
For some reason, when he said ceramic plate, the first thing I thought was like commemorative. There's an Elvis plate. There's a Dale Earnhardt plate over here.
No.
A lot of that crap.
Okay, so the leather you said it's fairly, if it's not head to toe, it's at least neck to toe.
Yeah.
These plates, where all are they located? I mean, is it just
Mostly
the chest?
just torso.
Just the torso. Okay. So put down the following under armor. You put down you have I'm just going to tell you its category for the game.
Okay.
So for torso, you have scrap armor.
Okay.
And put down -4 next to it. That's what it will take off of damage that hits your torso.
Okay.
For arms and legs, put down you have leather armor. Now, is that leather plated or worked at all, or is that just like motorcycle?
Just plain motorcycle.
It is at -1.
Okay.
Do you have anything at all on your head?
No.
Okay. Waynard, you wanted stats on your stuff.
Yep. So I have a leather duster,
That's -1.
and then I have a knife.
The knife is 2d6.
And then I have a collapsible baton.
What is your strength?
That'd be body?
Yes.
5.
It is 1d6 plus 3.
Right.
Okay. Chad,
Oh,
your stats for pops are on the sheet.
yeah. I have a worked metal chest.
Okay, so you actually have a worked metal chest.
Yeah.
That counts as steel armor. It is -6 for torso.
And I have that sawed-off double-barrel shotgun wrist wrecker. I mean, it's like
Okay. Put down the following things.
everybody on the ground.
It is 4d6. It is just put like FL after that's it's works off of flechette or
Mm-hmm.
it's shooting junk. It's not shooting a slug. And also put SO or something that is sawed off.
It's in the description, yeah.
Okay.
Sawed-off double.
Because sawed off is actually a weapon trait.
Okay.
It actually does change the way the weapon operates.
All right.
Okay. So it uses shot, and I realize it's technically not flechette, whatever, but it uses shot, and it is sawed off. Okay. It is not deadly to you. Breach reloading. Okay. Anything else? Last second stuff?
I still want that powered armor cod piece.
You will have to earn it. We're going to make this like Horizon Zero Dawn. You will have to work incredibly hard for the entirety of the campaign for that powered armor payoff. Since in your case, it will just be a cod piece.
I want the most powerful piece of armor in the game, but just
For your dog.
Just for balance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not greedy. I don't want the whole thing.
The problem is it doesn't fit over your junk, so that has to go.
Yeah. I'm already
you can
min-maxing
have
my
it.
character.
Okay. Let's get started. This once again takes place 5 years before the current game will actually start. The current campaign will start. So all of your characters, Chaz, yours is not present, which is why you will be playing Pops. The rest of you are all de-aged by 5 years.
Where's Brodeur's character at?
Brodeur's on the ship. He's on the boat. I will largely just push him to the background as a...
Push him overboard.
Yeah, he's going to be a cardboard cutout just waving at you guys.
At this point, I've been doing this for a year.
Okay, so you've been doing this for a year, Wayne. I know this puts you, like upper teens, thereabouts?
Yep, 18.
Okay.
Because I started at 17.
And if you start the game at 19,
Right.
you're like 14.
Right. So I'm brand new, I suppose.
So, okay, so you've just recently had your bar mitzvah.
Great.
That's
That's where he got the armor from.
yes. That's you would not believe how much longer they came up with.
That's a breast.
I know. I'm just being an a-hole. All right, so okay. It is currently about the start of October. It's about October 2nd. The ship is right now, you guys are in what's called a keelboat. The keelboat, which is I'll put a link to this if I remember alongside the episodes. If I forget in putting all this stuff out there, somebody post a comment on Patreon or something to remind me.
And link to Wicked River. Do you know that Amazon does referral links for Missouri now?
Oh, do they?
They do. So we should do a Fear the Boot referral program with
For
Amazon,
Wicked River?
and then just do Wicked River.
I think actually once I get Lookout Radio started, I'm going to cut a deal with like the Arcadia Chamber of Commerce or something. No. All right. So anyway, you guys are using what's called a keel boat. A keel boat is one of the two major types of unpowered transport boats that are on the river, the other being a flat boat. The distinction between the two is obviously a keel boat has a keel, so it's shaped more like a traditional boat is, whereas a flat boat is more, it's, as the name describes, it's just flat on the underside. One of the big issues with a flat boat is they don't tend to make return trips very well, if at all. In fact, the way that flat boats were used in their time, and would probably be used again, is many times they were built, cargo was put on them, they were sailed down the river, at which point the cargo was sold, the boat was oftentimes sold as scrap, and then the crew would actually then have to find some other way back upriver. And this changed with the advent and popularity of steam power, because they would then sometimes, instead of scrapping the boat, they would literally hitch a ride off the back of a steamship back up the river. Now, a keel boat is actually capable of making a trip out and back. I will show you a picture here of a keel boat, just for visual reference. I linked this so the other guys saw it, but I don't believe that you have. So I'll show you a picture here real quick of what a keel boat looks like, just so you have some idea.
Okay.
But a keel boat, it's going to run about the one that you're on right now, which will be fairly similar in make and model to the one that Brodeur will be having for you guys. It's about 20 feet wide at its widest, and it is about 50 feet long from stem to stern. The keel boat has, one of the features that it has is there's an open spot to the front and an open spot to the back. There is then an internal cabin that takes up the middle, so you can actually go indoors. It's not a large area, but you can go indoors. Cargo is packed in fairly heavily, it sometimes is on the deck, but more often there is a area below the water line where the cargo is put, so it's mostly out of sight, out of mind, and it's packed very densely. The ships can carry, it varied on the low end about 15 tons of cargo, up to the high end about 50 tons of cargo. The one that you guys are in is somewhat on the lower end. It's about 20, 25 tons of cargo. Find the stupid picture I'm looking for. It has a sail, so if it catches good winds, it is capable of sailing, and it also is capable of being rowed. So you can, through the use of oarsmen, you can actually row this ship. There's also a method of getting it back upstream using poles, where basically the poles are pressed against the bottom of the water and then pulled along. The ship can also be towed from shore by manpower or by work animals. So it can also be, that's mostly used to get it back upstream. Going downstream tends to be a whole lot simpler because of the fact that you just, if nothing else, you could just ride the currents. The currents, by the way, on the Mississippi River near St. Louis, does anyone want to take a random guess as to what they are on average?
3 knots and a farthing.
You might be correct on the farthing, since that's a unit of money. It runs at about the speed of the currents in the Mississippi River around St. Louis are just below 2 miles an hour.
Now, changes though.
Yes, it changes with seasons. It changes with weather.
Also, we've tamed the river, put in locks and whatnot.
Lots of things have changed it, but that is
those locks and dams no longer exist, or broken down, and then there's also regular clearings of the river, and maintenance of the river keeps it steady. So, like, when there's a bend in the river, the bend's in the river, and the river always bends there. That's not how it used to be, though. So, how much of that has changed?
I don't know. I'm not sure what to make it a major factor in the game of what Wild River is like.
Wicked River.
Well, no. I meant not the book.
I did.
This is a heel boat.
Okay.
So you can go and take that phone from me, but you can see there's a rudder that's usually either on back or sometimes it's controlled all the way from atop that little central cabin.
Okay.
And then you can have oarsmen and such so that's roughly what your boat looks like.
Yep. There's also potentials of earthquakes too.
Yep.
Because when you look at like New Madrid, for example, there's towns there that used to exist, and then the earthquake happened, and then the river was suddenly 2 miles to the left.
Of course, yeah. I'm also, I'm not sure I want to do the research necessary to approach anything plausible. So there is a river. You guys are. It is
river is setting.
It is.
We're not going science.
Yes,
river.
exactly. This is not a game about hydrology. It's
it's a Mark Twain river.
Sure, it's just there, and folksy things happen, and
in my mind, it's just like it is now. Like from a location standpoint.
The only thing I've actually really thought about is the Chain of Rocks Canal, and then those. If you go just west of the Chain of Rocks Canal, the two little buildings that are out there in the middle of the river, right by that massive current change.
Yeah,
I've been trying to decide what I want to do with those. I do something fun with them. But anyway, all right. So it's early October. It's starting. There's a little bit of a chill in the air. It's certainly cold at night. It is not deeply cold. The leaves are beginning to change, so the thick green foliage of the eastern Missouri, western Illinois area is now turning from green to orange and red and whatnot. This is a great time of year for busting out the wine and
or the cider.
Yep,
Applejack.
Well, also yes, there is a lot of apples that are grown in and around the St. Louis area, and so yeah, Applejack, apple cider, apple shine. If you've never had apple shine, it is surprisingly easy to drink. I don't recommend it for that reason. You would not think moonshine goes down easy. I tried an apple moonshine, and it was way too easy to drink and way too hard hitting.
Right.
But you guys have just picked up a cargo from House Color, which is one of the greater houses of St. Louis. What happened in St. Louis history was the nuke that was meant to hit St. Louis simply did not detonate on course. It went too far to the east and detonated over in Illinois. And so...
Nobody likes Illinois.
But so my apologies to you and your podcast.
No, that's fine.
But
Wait, you're from Illinois?
Yep.
Get out.
We lost the east side.
no, it's a little farther east.
Where
than
were people
that.
going to their strippers?
Yeah, Soje is still there as this shining beacon in the night.
And culture and art.
End of civilization, it's roaches and soje.
But so it detonated a bit off to the east. And so what happened, though, was St. Louis was left with, it did not have a good response. And so when all of a sudden society collapses around St. Louis, there was really nobody that was prepared to fill that power vacuum or to enact a really sufficient plan to preserve what was going on. And so what happened was, over time, things got crazy, things got violent, there was enough access to agriculture that people did generally survive. And as society recovered, it began reorganizing at the community level. So based along neighborhoods and trades and things like that. And over time, these trade houses and these communities, some of them became powerful enough that they started creating a new order for the city. So they suddenly became a ruling class. And so you now have a ruling class that is in control of the entire means of learning and production and such, and they have organized themselves into something that they philosophically describe as the machine. Because within the machine, everything has a particular purpose and a particular thing to do, and a cog is not a belt, and a belt is not a cog, and that's how things work. And as they organized further, what they did was they started taking control of the major centers of population and resource production in the area. So if you were to put a pin and a piece of string on St. Louis, put it out to about the north end of the state and kind of draw a semicircle down toward the south end of the state, that is basically their area of control. Now, the farther you get from St. Louis and the farther you get from things they care about, the more that control begins to slip. So it's not like they're not some omnipresent power. And it is not as if there are no threats and there's no uncultured areas even within their territory. What they do is they just try to make sure that trade goods move, the machine functions, and what they need and want continues to survive. And there are suburbs and slums around the major houses of St. Louis that are not part of the machine, that enjoy varying statuses of they find necessary reasons to exist or they thrive on the scraps. So you guys come from one of the towns that is within St. Louis's interest. You are actually just down the Missouri River a little bit. For anyone who doesn't know their St. Louis geography, just right around the northern edge of St. Louis, the reason St. Louis is called the City of Three Rivers is because the Missouri, Illinois, and Mississippi rivers all come together right around northern St. Louis or the town of Grafton, Illinois.
The confluence.
The confluence of the three rivers.
So how far west does the influence actually go? The way you described it definitely doesn't go as far as Kansas City.
No.
They past Rolla, I'm guessing?
Yes, I would say it starts to... Columbia is sufficient to assert its own independence.
Okay.
Columbia is about mid-state for anyone who's playing the home game, and Columbia is of sufficient distance that it's able to assert its own independence. St. Louis would love to control it because of the amount of... because it'd be a great jumping-off point for a whole lot of information, materials, and such, but they are not able to exert their control that far out. And one of their great... one of the speed bumps they keep hitting is once they get out that far, they just keep having to cross more and more untamed land to the point that it gets hard to project power that far out. And so their ability to intimidate any even mid-sized settlement that far west, it's really difficult. It's easier along the river for the simple reason the river makes it easier. It's not as easy for them to do that toward the middle of the state because they do not have, the Missouri, first of all, is actually less tame than the Mississippi is if it's not carefully managed, and they do not have nearly the same amount of merchanting occurring on the Missouri, simply because the Missouri, from their standpoint, doesn't go anywhere half so interesting as what's to the south. Because once you get towards the south, you start getting toward the ocean. Obviously, the Mississippi dumps out in and around New Orleans into the Gulf of Mexico, which is where you start getting into the areas of concern of the Jacksonville NAS. And so you suddenly start reaching things that are much more worth trading with. Any other quick questions on the setting before we...
No serious ones.
Okay. So you guys have just picked up a shipment of spare parts. It's a variety of machine parts, worked metal, some unworked ingots. So your cargo hold, it's loaded to tonnage. It is not fully loaded to space. Pops has done what he can to fill in some of the remaining space with things like post, with things like some foodstuffs and whatnot, just any little bits of textile, whatever it is he can do to fill out the space, to make the trade run as profitable as possible, but the sheer weight of the machine parts in this boat has made that a bit difficult to do. So the cargo hold is running a little bit emptier than it usually does. The current crew of the ship consists of Pops, who is captaining it. He is also working as your chief navigator. Pops is a man in his 50s. He's rugged looking from his life on the river. He's managed to keep all of his fingers, toes, hands, which actually on river work is quite a feat.
That's it.
Excuse the pun. So give him
he has no feet.
So give him a hand.
Yeah.
But
Can't put your finger on what you're about to say.
yeah, hair has gone a little bit prematurely white. Thick beard because it keeps him warm this time of year. Tends to cut his hair shorter and shave a bit more towards the hotter months. But once again, you're getting into fall, so it's getting quite cold at night. Skies are currently clear. Looks like you should have pretty clean run from here to your destination, which is a drop-off point at St. Genevieve. And this pickup is actually occurring on the St. Louis River landing, which is right by the Gateway Arch, which incidentally is still standing. If you've
Do
ever
they use it for anything?
There are
Other than lookouts, I guess?
Yes, sort of. They don't actually tend to go up in it too much, because it'd take a lot of balls to go upstairs that tall and that old. But
that rusty.
Yes. But if you've actually ever read up on how long they expect the arch to survive and what it's capable of withstanding?
Externally.
Internally,
they're having problems because the Aerosarin and the architect did not take into account temperature differences, and there's actually microclimates within the arch.
Yep.
And it like rains inside of the arch. And they're having a big problem with rust.
The primary thing that they use it for is there is the overseeing house, whose name I don't have handy, but the overseeing house, that its function to the machine is providing order to the machine. So it settles disputes, things like that, tries to keep the machine working, tries to keep the gears from grinding against each other, shall we say. They use it as an area of living and governance. And by it, I don't mean the arch, I mean the museum underneath the arch. Mm-hmm. Once again, for those that aren't from St. Louis, if between the legs of the arch, there's a subterranean museum called the Westward Expansion Museum, which is also where you board the elevators or the little trams that go up the arch. There are stairs in there as well, but you don't use those to get up there. And though they actually tend to settle most of their disputes and do most of their governance. Chad, help me out there. What is the name of that plaza and amphitheater? It's not too far from
Keener
there.
Plaza?
What is it?
Keener Plaza?
Keener Plaza. Keener Plaza is actually where they
might not be there anymore. Because they've completely renovated downtown. If you haven't been there in a while, there's like this big, long strip of park.
Well, great. Now my game's already dated.
I know, right?
I'm going home.
Dude, if you haven't been down there in a while, just take a look.
I think they
totally
kept
different.
the name, though.
Keener Plaza.
It's completely different. Not at all like it was.
Well, you know what?
There's a sculpture garden there, restaurants. Yeah, it's...
Okay, well, where Keener Plaza used to be, they have built that up to be where the main pit is. So...
I think there's There. Fine. I think there's a sculpture garden there now.
Sure.
With bunnies. It's really cute. Kids playing it.
Now there's skulls all over.
There's skulls and blood.
Now there's skulls and blood and
viscera.
All of the ears of the bunny sculptures have bunnies like shish kebabbed on them, bleeding, screaming eternally, hooked up to cybernetics. Their suffering powers the machine.
It's really artistic, you know. It really makes a bold statement about the juxtaposition of man versus nature.
Yeah. So, but
you're like, God damn my game!
But it is the morning of October.
Fuck you, Urban Renewal.
It was the morning of October 2nd. Yes, the crew of the ship. So the crew of the boat consists of about a dozen people. You have Pops doing navigation, running the ship. There is a helmsman who is also the head of most of the workmen. So think basically the people that make kind of a passing. Yes, Carl?
I'm having a big issue with the Jeep, and I need someone's help.
Okay, we'll pause the recording. All right, so hold on. We're going to pause this recording, so you guys, and we'll be right back.